Hey everyone, so here's a little flow that you can work on daily maintenance to really help work on internal external hip rotation and also strengthening your oblique slings in connection with the upper and lower extremities. So this is what we call a shin box position. If you have really bad knees or if you have trouble getting on the ground, of course this is something that you're not going to do. So let's preface this whole thing with that first. If during this drill you start to get too much torque and pain at the knees, once again, come out of this position and work on some hip and foot mobility, ankle mobility to reduce the amount of torque that the knee has to take before you come back into this position. So, I have a 4-foot stick here. Use whatever you have available to you. As you can see here, I have external rotation on the right leg, internal rotation on the left. I'm going to place the stick right here next to my hip at 3 o'clock position. I'm going to reach up with that right arm. So for me, this, as you can see, is a really good, perfect length for my arm length. So from here, I'm going to take the left hand and I'm going to press up into that overhead reach. And as I do that, remember, where we have push, we have to have pull. So as I'm reaching up with my left arm, I'm reflexively pushing down with my right. And as I do that, I feel my ribs naturally pulling towards my center. So as I reach up with that left arm, I'm pulling my ribs back underneath my torso in line with my spine. Make sure you're breathing, and I'm gently pushing the legs down into the ground. So both legs are driving into the floor. I'm pushing from the foot, knee, and the hip, all driving down on both legs. So I get a nice tall spine. I'm feeling these lateral tissues on the left side all the way from the shoulder down into the hip. Hold that for a few seconds, then ease off, and then again. And the object here is as you reach and keep those ribs underneath you and you breathe, you create that core strengthening neuromuscular control that we're looking for. So that way, when you bring your arm down, you still have that ability to control the rib cage and keep it in that alignment that you're looking for. So we do a few of those. And now let's switch sides. And when you get into the setup, try not to use your hands to move your legs. Use your hip muscles to do that internal and external rotation. Placing the stick here at 9 o'clock, reaching the left hand up, pushing both legs down into the floor nice and easy, and then reaching up with that right hand. And as I reach up with the right hand, I reflexively pull down with the left, and I'm feeling my ribs pull underneath me to the right. And I'm breathing. Hold for about a 6 to 10 count. Ease off. And then repeat. Once you've done about 4 or 5 reps of that, now we're going to work on transitioning, and we're going to use the stick to pull tension, so that way it'll help you keep thoracic extension as we transition in and out of internal external rotation. So I'm going to come back to the starting position with the right leg in front, left leg behind. Stick is in front of me, parallel to the floor, about chest level. You can have your hands just a little wider than shoulder width grip. I'm going to pull apart on that stick at about 40 to 50% tension. When you pull apart on the stick, you're going to feel your posterior arm line activate. I'm pushing both feet into the ground. And from here, I'm going to start to lift the knees up in transition, keeping that tall spine. Stop if you can here in the middle for a second so you feel those hips externally rotating. Keep that nice tall spine. Make sure you're breathing. And then finish the transition all the way over. Pushing the feet down into the ground. Nice, easy transition. Pause for a second in the middle before you transition over to the other side. And you're really, as you can see, you're working that internal, external hip rotation, accessing those obliques and core tissues to keep a nice tall torso, nice long spine. Now let's add that overhead lift. So I'm pulling apart on the stick, gonna go overhead when I get to the end range. Gonna pull apart on the stick still as I come down. Transition again. Pause in the middle, can go overhead. Finish the transition, keeping those ribs underneath you. Pulling apart, going overhead. Don't let the ribs flare when you go overhead. So as you come up, we don't want to see the ribs flaring up. Keep the ribs down. And then relax. So work about 4 or 5 transitions with the stick parallel to the floor, and then work 4 or 5 where you bring the arms into that overhead dislocate position. Give that a shot. Your hips are really going to be happy with that. Keep them nice and mobile. And if you do get some cramping, you'll probably experience that either in the hip rotators or in the obliques. Ease out of the position, move around a little bit, take some breaths, and then get back into it, and the cramping should dissipate.